Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. So before we begin the video today, I just want to remind everyone to go ahead and like and subscribe. Comment down below. Check the description of this video and all the other videos on my channel if you're in a position to help the channel grow in any way. I have links there for my Patreon, Teespring, and several other support links, as well as the usual advocacy links. With all that out of the way, folks, thank you for watching today, and let's get on with the video. Alright, so before we begin the video proper, I want to give a couple of real quick shout-outs. One is to Jen's Reviews from the Grave. Jen and Christian just hit their 1K subscribers mark. For a small YouTube channel, of course, that's a huge mark. Jen and Christian do some wonderfully creative and absolutely hysterical videos. Great reviewers. I really value their opinion even when I disagree with them. And I really love their channel, and they are two really, really awesome people. So if you haven't subscribed yet to them and you're watching this video, please go over and subscribe to them. I will put their link down below in the description. So the second shout out I want to give, and the person this video is kind of dedicated to and in honor of, is a guy by the name of Mike Bracken. Mike Bracken, aka the Horror Geek. He covers a lot of the exploitation films from the 70s, a lot of the foreign stuff. He has a really good sense of humor about things. He goes really in depth. He knows an absolute ton when it comes to about horror movies, especially about these, it seems. I'm sure he does a ton of research too, but he seems to really know his stuff. He just hit 50K subscribers, so that's an absolute huge deal in YouTube in general, but especially for a horror channel, 50K is huge. So if you haven't subscribed to Mike, his link will be in a pinned comment down below. Please go ahead and subscribe to him. Wonderful guy, great sense of humor, lots of dad jokes and bad puns. I wanted to do this video for him. So in honor of Mike Bracken, this is my video. Alright, so this is going to be another countdown video. This is going to be my top 5 Cannibal-sploitation films. So if you're unfamiliar with the genre, the 70s into the 80s, it was a real big thing for a very little while. To send people into deepest, darkest jungles and have them eaten by cannibals. It was mostly an Italian thing. There were, from what I understand, a few French films that did it as well. But you know, it all kind of kicked off with The Man from Deep River. But probably the most infamous one is Cannibal Holocaust. Now, as I've said before, I was born in 73. I graduated high school in 92. And Cannibal Holocaust was a big deal back then. I know I saw it while I was still in high school. The local mom and pop video store that was close to where I live, they actually didn't have it out on the shelf with the other horror movies. Cannibal Holocaust, Faces of Death, and probably something else, I think, were all behind the curtain with those adult movies. You couldn't rent them if you know, unless you were old enough to go back into that room. But along the way, somebody's brother was, or whatever, was old enough, got back there, rented it, and copied VHS tapes, made their way around school, and of course you got my hands on all of those movies and watched them back then. Well, I watched The Faces of Death and Cannibal Holocaust. I never really saw any of the other ones, and as I got out of school, that sort of stuff just kind of wasn't the main kind of horror movies that I was into at the time. They're all poorly acted, poorly dubbed. Some of the effects hold up in some of them don't. But just kind of fell out of favor. Well, year and a half, 2 years ago, I guess, I found Mike's channel. And I kind of went back and watched several of those films because that's the kind of films he covers. So, inspired by Mike Bracken, this is my top 5, plus 2 honorable mentions, Cannibal-sploitation films. So, honorable mention number 1. Honorable mention number 1 is Mimi Lay Bites Back. Mimi Lay was an actress. She did 3 cannibal movies, did several other, did a lot of British TV. But she left the movie industry when she had her daughter, and decided to settle down and raise a family. And this is the documentary of, because the internet is what the internet is, and horror fans have connected over the years, and she's become a pretty big deal because of these movies and the other things that she did. So a young filmmaker from England tracked her down. Turns out that she was living in England still, which is where she was from, and that she was retired and had no idea that she was an icon, or that this particular genre of movie was as revered and reviled as it actually is. So this is the movie about her coming back into it, coming to terms with it. It's a documentary. It's got some really good interviews with her. It's got a couple of clips with Lindsay and another Italian director, and the things that they did. They show clips from a screening, and talk about her getting back into the community, and figuring out how much her career means to some people. It's a very interesting watch. It's streaming on Tubi and Midnight Pulp, and I think you can pick it up on Amazon, but I know you can rent it on Amazon if not. So, yeah, that's my first honorable mention. So my second honorable mention is Emmanuel and the Last of the Cannibals. This movie is, in the Italian tradition, an unofficial sequel to somebody else's movie franchise. This is one that I cannot really recommend, because there is a lot in this one, a lot to deal with in this one, a lot of things that are very of the era, a lot of things that were, I guess, okay in this kind of movie if it's made in Italy, which this one was actually shot not in actual location, where most of these were shot on location, either in Thailand or other tropical places, a little bit more exotic places. This one was actually shot in Italy, about 40 minutes south of Rome, apparently. And you can tell that there's a couple of sequences with things that just don't work right. This movie is absolutely the sleaziest. It's really a gnat's hair from being full-on porn. It's definitely softcore porn. It's definitely pushing into that element of it, And it's not... to say it's not politically correct is an understatement. There's several sequences that happen in this movie that are not appropriate for a modern audience. But you can watch it as a product of its time and let go of all of the modern mind and just go back to when this was made, and maybe you can enjoy it. I do, under those conditions and in that thought process. But unless you can handle an awful lot when it comes to the porn side of things and the elements of the story that revolve around that, I don't recommend it to you. But it's on my list because I can go back into that mindset and I can enjoy it for what it is. It's trash cinema. Alright, so moving on to number 5 on our list. Number 5 on our list is Eaten Alive. As I spoke about in the honorable mentions, one of the actresses in this is Mimi Lay. Very pretty Indonesian actress. Her mother was Indonesian, her father was from England. She's a minor character in it. This was her last cannibal film. She did I think one other movie after this, but this was her last one of the 3 that she did. This one revolves around a woman going to the Amazon to rescue her sister who's gotten herself involved in a cult. The cult is very much based on Jonestown. Very much oppression of and coercion of the natives involved in it. Very much the cult leader is very similar in a lot of ways to that. It's not great, but for what it is, for low-budget Italian cannibal cinema, it's pretty good. The cult thing leads to some really strange and abstract and very Italian scenes in it. There's, of course, copious amounts of gore and pig guts, and the reason this one makes my list is there's a scene in it at the end where one of the characters, and I won't mention who it is because, spoilers and all that for a 40-year-old movie. But anyway, so one of the characters gets the natives cut him in half. And while there are some really good effects in it, and there are some really interesting things done, the effect for this one is, and if you look closely at it under a good HD transfer, you can see that the guy is hanging there and they literally stuck a picture in front of him. Harkening back to the dedication for this video to Mike, he pointed that out. It was bad before, but he pointed that out in his review of it, and after he said that, and now that I've said that, you'll never not see the picture. It really is, when you look at it, you can see that there's literally a matte painting in front of it. It's bad. But it's cheesy fun, and it's Cannibal-sploitation at its best. So number 4 on this list is the Green Inferno, Eli Roth's tribute to these kind of movies. I enjoy this for what it is. There's an attempt at social commentary in there. Some of the better cannibal movies made an attempt at social commentary. The really good ones actually succeeded in making a social commentary out of it, but the Eli Roth's version, a bunch of college kids go down to the Amazon to save the rainforest. There's a minor subplot about genital mutilation. There's a whole thing about the twist on the an attempted story twist on the people going down as the environmentalists. It's gory. It's dumb in places. It's a legitimate, serious tribute, and almost a ripoff of all the things that make the Cannibal-sploitation movies from the 70s and 80s so much fun. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. If you're a gore hound, if you're someone who prefers well-written scripts and highbrow and legitimate scare, legitimate tension building, this isn't for you. This is a dumb, fun popcorn movie with lots of blood and gore. And it's number 4 on my list because I like it. All right, so number 3 on our list is Cannibal Ferox. This was the anything you can do, I can do better that came out after Cannibal Holocaust. This one took everything that it did and pushed it even harder. More gore, more nudity, more, unfortunately, animal deaths, legitimate animal killings specifically for the movie. There's quite a bit of stock footage used in this one, and the story's kind of all over the place, but the effects work are good. The acting for dubbed over voices is good. The social commentary in this one actually works. The main character in it is someone going for their PhD, and they're going down to travel through the dark, jungles of New Guinea to prove that cannibalism not only doesn't exist in 1970-ish, 78, I think it was. May have been 80, I don't know. But anyway, whatever the hell year it came out. It goes in to prove that that doesn't exist now, and it never existed then. Never existed in history, at least not in modern history, and runs into a whole tribe of cannibals. There's a lot of gore. There's a very infamous scene with one of the characters being strung up on hooks. There is quite a bit of full frontal female nudity in this. It's good for what it is, and the social commentary. I won't give away the ending if you haven't seen this and this is your kind of movie. The whole thing with the anthropologist going for a PhD and meeting, crossing paths with a guy who's down there to exploit the natives in order to mine emeralds to pay off his drug debt. So there's an interesting interaction between those and counterpoints between those, and why the natives have been pushed to this point. It's worth a watch at least once. And I enjoy it, and it's number 3 on my list. So number 2 on my list is Massacre in Dinosaur Valley. This movie is cheesy, fun. It's just absolutely fun. This movie is very much in the style of Indiana Jones in a lot of ways. You've got the white knight hero coming through to save the girl. You've got one adventure, a little respite, one adventure, the hero. There's a whole lot of comedy at the beginning of it. Yes, there is full frontal nudity. Yes, there is a couple of animals who were killed on camera for the movie. But it's nowhere near as bad as what some of the others are. But it has a lot of comedy, and the guy even, they even dressed the dude up. he's a fossil hunter who bribes his way onto a small plane to get to Dinosaur Valley, which is off limits, and runs into first they run into the tribe, then they get downriver, and the whole thing where they're captured and escape, captured and all the adventure stuff is in this one. This is an adventure movie. It's like I said, it's a lot of Indiana Jones in this one. And it is so much fun. I really like it. And then it gets downriver and more things happen. And then, of course, comes back as the big hero to rescue the damsels in distress. And again, it's just an Indiana Jones ripoff, and it's a lot of fun. If you can deal with the sexual elements of it and all of that, I highly recommend this one. This is one that I do recommend. It is definitely more of an adventure. It's not even really a whole lot of horror in it. There is quite a bit of blood and guts, but there's not any at all suspense as far as like a horror type suspense. It's all, again, like a serial from the 30s or 40s, It's all that kind of cartooniness in it, in its tone. The gore effects, fair to middling. They're not great, but they're not bad. This was very much late in the cannibal cycle, so it uses it to get your attention, but it's not its main focus. The main focus on it is Indiana Jones Italian style. All right, so you know what number one had to be. It really did. There was there's nothing that compares to this one. Cannibal Holocaust is social commentary. It's gore. Yes, there is the animal deaths. Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room before we start. Yes, there were several animals who were killed on camera for this movie in very gory fashion. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that in this movie. I don't agree with that in any of them. No animal should be killed for the purposes of entertainment or simply for the gross out effect of doing it. I do not agree with that. So, that said, let's take the movie for what it is, a product of its time and a product of Italy, and the social commentary in this one, it's very relevant right now, actually. A group of people go into the jungles to rescue a group of people who have been lost in the jungles. And the first group went in to shoot a documentary film. It turns out that this documentary film wasn't exactly the most... they went in with an idea, and when that wasn't what they found, they decided to create that idea. Their narrative on it was fake. It was just, fake news, quote unquote, kind of thing. It was... They went in with an idea, it didn't happen, so they made the facts fit the theory. We all know what's going on in the world today, and, it's not that that's not relative, because everybody has got their own agenda and their own objective, and you've got to look at everything you see with a fine-tooth comb, to pick out what's real and what's somebody else's story. And that's what this group had gone in to do. There's also quite a bit of this movie that is shown as people watching the film that the first group did shoot. So, and if it's not, it really it's the grandfather of found footage. It may not have been the first one. I kind of think it was. I can't remember anybody saying anything came before that. But it's really found footage. I think that's a full act of the film. Takes place, in these people's video. And you can see that they're in the things that are shot. You can see that they're acting. You can see that They're absolutely entrenched by the violence of it, out to prove what horrible primitives these people are. And it leaves and kind of on the nose with the almost a moral of the story at the end of it. Who's really the savage here? It's a good movie, and I enjoy it for what it is. The dubbing in it is bad. The animal killings are terrible things. The level of nudity in it is very high. The level of gore that's in it is very high. The effects were really good. Most of them still hold up. If you don't know the story, the director was actually accused of making a snuff film because the effects were so good. Of course, it made the Video Nasties list. It made the banned list legitimately in several countries, but of course that was blown up for marketing in others. But and I think it was like 2009 before the uncut version of it was released in England, because it is, that much of what it is. But the director was hauled into court and accused of murder, and he had to bring in the actors and show that they were still alive, and then he had to bring in his effects person to demonstrate in court how some of these things were done. So if you've never seen the Cannibal-sploitation films, start with this one because it is the best, and if you enjoy it, branch out more. Probably it's a very hard watch because of what it is. So I can't really recommend it to everyone. If you want to dip your toes in, take Massacre at Dinosaur Valley. If you want to go full off to the deep end, take this one. But yeah, that's my top 5 list, folks. Thank you so much for watching today. Congratulations to Mike for hitting that big 50K. And as always, links down in the description for Teespring, Amazon, Buy Me a Coffee. If you want to join the Patreon, it starts at only $5 a month. And with that said, y'all be good, y'all be safe, and y'all have a good one.